Welcome to today's episode of the Declutter Hub podcast, your channel for super easy, no-nonsense advice on how to declutter and organise your home. Please welcome your hosts, professional organisers Ingrid Jansen and Lesley Spellman.
Hello and welcome listeners to episode 10 of the Declutter Hub podcast. I'm Ingrid.
And I'm Lesley.
If you have clutter and want to sort it out, this is the show for you. In today's episode, Lesley and I are talking about getting ahead with your planning for a super organized Christmas. Now, I don't know about you, Lesley, but December is a really busy time of year. So I really always want to do some stuff in November, so to not have to do everything in December. How do you feel about it?
Well, exactly. It's crazy. And, it's a crazy time. But, the one thing that I've realized over the past few years, and I think it took me quite a while to work this out, is actually the nice bit about Christmas is the run up to it. Obviously, Christmas Day is a lovely time as well. And, family time. But, the nativities, even, thinking about the wrapping, thinking about what presents you're going to give, all those kind of things, Pentos, that's what makes Christmas really lovely. It's not just about that one day, is it really? So, and you want to be able to enjoy that, really, don't you? So if you do more planning in November, it means that you're less frantic. You're still going to be a bit frantic, to be fair, in December, because it just is a frantic time, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the more planning we do in advance, the better and calmer that December can be, and the more we can enjoy it.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you. I love, decorating the house, and I love writing my Christmas cards. It almost seems, that these traditions have developed over the years when I do things, and I really enjoy those moments, at home, writing a couple of cards, every evening, and thinking, and thinking about the people that I really love and that I love sending cards to. It makes it special, and it makes you, appreciate Christmas and the whole holiday season and the time around it.
Yeah, it's just a time. I find that it's just a time to kind of reconnect, and it is a busy time. It's a time to reconnect when you're sending cards, when when you're doing your wrapping, when you're doing your, as you said, decorating your house for Christmas. Even that it depends on how you do it. We've got a very traditional sort of Christmas tree situation, and the kids love it. We've got ornaments that we've had for donkey's years, and we love those coming out every year, and it's like, oh, remember that time. And so yeah, it's just a nice time. So let's think about what kind of things we need to plan for in November so that we can really enjoy this special time.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff you can already plan ahead in November. So let's break it down for our listeners and give them some ideas of what they can do now to get some of those things out of the way. So I don't know how about you, but I've had a reminder of my grocery store to book a Christmas slot delivery for my Christmas groceries. I don't have to do that, but I got a reminder. How about you?
I know. I go to the supermarket rather than get it delivered, but certainly a couple of weeks ago, I think it was. So I think that ship may well have sailed, and I think all those slots might be gone. So I think we might be a little bit too late with our planning. So people that are super efficient and organised will have got those booked in. But yeah, it's really important to think about appointments and where things are going to be busy, because you don't want to miss out. So whether that's a nail appointment to get your nails done Christmas week, to get your hair done, to get any kind of pampering that you want to get done, they're busy. Everyone wants it in that same week, don't they? So you need to plan ahead to get those. But I think now social media, these salons are sending reminders out and saying, yeah, book your Christmas slots and and your New Year's slots as well, because you've got to think about, I think a lot of people just think about up to Christmas Day, and you've got to think beyond that, haven't you, as well, to the sort of New Year's celebrations as well.
Yeah, I'm away over the holiday season, so I don't have to do that. But and I don't have my nails done, but I can imagine those.
Do you not?
But I can imagine those appointments are getting really fully booked now. So make sure you reach out to your hairdresser or your nail salon if you still want to book those in. Now's really the time to get that all in the diary. And maybe, if there are listeners who have pets, and maybe they want to send their dog to the groomers before Christmas, I think that's now also the time you want to check with your groomers if there's still room to have your pet nice and pampered and done up before Christmas. That would be lovely.
I think there's something really strange about, I always find myself just before Christmas, somehow you want everything to be perfect. So you try and get everything off your to-do list, don't you? I even get my car washed. I don't quite know why, because my car doesn't really go anywhere over Christmas, but I feel like it's another thing that I need to get done. So I think there's something about just wanting to get everything to sort of wipe the slate clean with your to-do list before Christmas so that you can relax and enjoy it. Yeah. So yeah, there's loads and loads of things. I think other things, and again, you might be lucky to get this because this is quite late, but thinking about pantomimes, Christmas shows, if you want to do that with the family over Christmas. There may be some last minute tickets available, but, it's not something that people are probably going to be able to do Christmas week. So that probably needs to be thought about now, because that's a lovely thing to do, isn't it? I love pantomimes. I mean, my kids are a little bit older now, so pantomimes kind of gone, sadly, from my life. But I'm sure it'll come back. But you need to think about all those kind of things as well.
Yeah. Well, I had never heard of a pantomime before I moved to this country, and that was 10 years ago. And at first I was very utterly confused about what a Pento was, but I've gone right into that. I absolutely love a Pento. We take, my husband and I take the kids to a Pento every year now. And absolutely, we are involved with the whole behind you thing. And we love it all. And we bring all the glittery light up things with us. It's absolutely fantastic.
I think it is just a British tradition, really. So, I mean, there's lots of people around the world listening who are probably like, what's a panto? Yeah. And so it's way too long to go and discuss what that is now, but it's a kind of crazy British slapstick comedy thing with lots of fun and enjoyment for the Christmas season, just for Christmas, really.
And I know there are theatres that do a Pento in January as well. So in case you have missed out on the booking the December ones, look around and see if there's some other things as well that you can do in January.
I think the other thing, talking about shows, that's important to talk about is to double check the dates that come out from schools, because to make sure you can manage that with your work diary, because the nativity plays and little cute Christmas shows that particularly junior schools, or even, the date came out last night for my son's Christmas concert at his secondary school. So it's important to make sure that you've got time in the diary, because, it's a busy time and there's lots of pulls on your time and lots of people, let's do this date, let's do that date with works, do's and things. So to sort of look at your diary and make sure that you've got all those things worked out and that you have got time off booked to make sure that you can make it to your child's show if you've got one.
Yeah, I agree. I had to swap around a client in my diary because I got the date for my daughter's nativity play, and they do it in the evening and in the afternoon. So I had to make sure that I swapped some things around in my diary so I could attend them. Also, I'm already awaiting the date for my son's Christmas show as well, or music concert, or they're doing something. So yeah, that's really good to get those things sorted and organized and see if you can't make it yourself. Maybe your family members can go and attend, because it's so important for the kids to have somebody there.
And that's what memories are made of, really, isn't it? Sort of those little kids things. I mean, talking about family as well, we've not talked about the big thing that you've got to do, which is actually work out what you're doing. So work out with your family who's going where, and because it's different every year, and some people swap from one family to another at Christmas. And so I think it's important to get a feel, if you're hosting in particular, or if you're likely to be hosting, to get a feel for who's going to be coming, what your numbers are going to be, because it's going to be very different if you're catering for 4 or 5 or 15, you know what I mean? And you need to think differently, plan differently, buy in advance if you've got those big numbers and things like that. So I think it's important to have those discussions. But for us in our family, those discussions are kind of a September thing, to kind of get that all worked out. Yeah. So as soon as everyone comes back from the holidays, summer holidays, it's like, right, okay, what we're doing at Christmas. And that seems to be, yes, we'll just come to you again, Lesley. So that's fine.
You got a house full every year then for Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. We do have a house full, and it's always good fun. And my son's birthday's on Boxing Day, so it turns into a kind of goes into Boxing Day thing. So it's a big day. So but it's a lovely day.
Yeah, well, my poor sister is always, we're there for Christmas. My family travels to Holland just right before Christmas. And then we stay at my sister's for Christmas Day. And then we go to my in-laws on Boxing Day. So that's a tradition I think we've had for 10 or 15 years. And it makes it, I really like it because it makes it easier. We don't have to reinvent the wheel every year to decide, but I can imagine, you want to keep it fair. So if you're all in the same country, in the same area, you might say, okay, we'll go to your family on Christmas Day and the others on Boxing Day and swap it around the year after. But in my situation, it's kind of the same every year. And it's almost a tradition now to have it that way.
Yeah, exactly. And, even if you are the host, and, I'm happy to be the host every year. No problem with that at all. Absolutely love it. But, you can talk about delegating tasks, who's going to buy different bits of food, and we do that every year. We sort of split up, who's going to do what and things like that, and who's going to bring what. And that eases the pain a little bit, doesn't it, of having to do it all yourself?
Yeah, yeah. And I also thought when you mentioned work dues, I thought, babysitters. I thought, if you don't forget to book your babysitters, and maybe already organize this now. Double check with your partner or your family members in your home. Are there any evenings that either of you are away or both of you are away? You actually need to book a babysitter. Plan that in now and check those diaries for the next couple of 6 weeks that are going to be quite frantic and hectic, that you don't want to miss out. And one of you has to stay home all of a sudden because either one of you thought you were going to organize it, and in the end, nobody did.
Exactly.
Okay.
So are we all planned to within an inch of our lives then, Ingrid, at this point? We're all calm. We've got everything in the diary. It's all sorted out. So what else do we need to do then to get ourselves super organised for Christmas?
Well, I think the main thing as well in November is to start some of the shopping that needs to happen. Instead of having to go out 2 days before Christmas and buy all the presents and get completely overwhelmed because you have no ideas anymore what you need to buy for people. I think you can definitely start with your shopping in November, and maybe even use the Black Friday sales to buy a few of those bits that you've got in mind for family or friends or people, whoever you buy for. But yeah, I think shopping is something that needs to happen already now.
Yeah, I think it depends. And again, I think it's a tradition, isn't it? And what people like to do. You've got particularly younger kids. I've got my eldest son is 22, so he will definitely probably go out on Christmas Eve and do all of his shopping then. And I think so the younger generation do that and probably enjoy doing that. But the more people you've got to buy for, we've got to send things away, post things, buy for little kids, plan who's buying what, all those kind of things. And those things take a little bit of planning, a little bit of time to think about. And then there's budget as well. You need to sort of spread the load a little bit, don't you, as well?
Yeah.
But I think it's also important within the present buying, before you even go out, to work out who you're going to buy for, because different families will have different, and families evolve, don't they? So there might be one point in your life where you're buying for the kids and not for the adults, and then once they get to a certain age you might switch, and so I think you need to get all that nailed down as well.
Yeah.
And if people are struggling, then there is this option of, well, I'm just going to buy a Secret Santa gift or something like that. So I think it's important to know who you're buying for and to write a list of who you're buying for and to stick within a budget.
Yeah, I know, because, you might say, I think also these days you just don't know what to buy anymore for people. So maybe chat to your family and say, are we actually doing gifts this year, or are we going to make it a Secret Santa to make it easier on everybody instead of having to shop for everybody? Make it easier on the whole family, and maybe pull out a name of a hat and say, okay, this is the budget, £10, this is the price, or £25, or whatever you want to do. And then say, okay, that's it. And you don't have to shop around so much.
I think, it's an interesting one, really, because as professional organisers and declutterers, the kind of excess and you could say waste then that goes on at Christmas is a whole nother podcast, whether we should even buy presents for people at all. But, I still go down the route of doing that, certainly for my family, because I do think it's quite nice and quite special. But equally, I've got a little bit more careful with the kind of things that I do buy. So and I still do stockings. Actually, why am I still doing stockings when my kids are 22 and 20 and 15? But they love that, and that's fine. But I definitely make sure that the things that are going in those stockings are things that they actually are going to use and need. So I think it's important to get that bit right and not just to buy random things as well. There's so much waste out there, really, isn't there, at Christmas?
Yeah.
But so another podcast for another year, we'll actually talk about whether or not you should buy presents at all, or whether you can, go down the kind of experience route.
Right. So that is kind of all the shopping for presents, but there's a few other bits as well that we need to make sure you already buy in November. And I was just thinking about, I need to do some card buying this weekend, because I want to start writing my Christmas cards. Now, I still am writing my Christmas cards to everyone because I absolutely love it. Do you send e-cards, Lesley, or do you still write Christmas cards? And how do you need to buy them still as well? Is that a November for you?
Yeah, I'm really torn with the Christmas card thing every year. It's like, it definitely is going down, isn't it, every year?
Mm-hmm.
The volumes of cards that you get. But I do still think that it's a lovely thing to do, but it's an expensive thing to do. It's like, what is it, 50p now or something for a stamp? It's an expensive thing to do. But I think there are certain people that I'll only connect with via Christmas card. Particularly maybe the older generation, there's those traditions. And so, I'm not buying any more Christmas cards for people that I'm seeing all the time. Do you know what I mean? But those people, I just think it's a nice thing to do, to connect once a year. What's the harm? Do you know what I mean? But, again, we've got to think about the environment and things like that. So there's loads and loads of different things again, that's a whole another podcast really, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, the most important thing and what we're talking about here then isn't, I guess, not whether or not to send those cards at all, but to make sure that you don't have loads and loads of cards that you're never going to use. So I think, because quite often when I'm decluttering people's houses, people gather cards, whether that's Christmas cards, birthday cards, get well cards. And, and I say, right, we're going to go through the card and you're going to tell me whether or not you actually would send that card. So you look at that card. Does that look like a card that you would send? And people go, oh, yeah, I'm just keeping it just because. But that's, what you need to do is you need to think about whether or not you would send that. Otherwise, it's clutter. It's just sitting there and it's never going to be sent. It's just going to sit there till the end of time. Granted, it's not taking up loads and loads of space, of course. But equally, it is still clutter that you don't need. So yeah, I think it's really important when you're going out and buying your cards and the same for your wrapping and your tags and things like that, to look at what you've got first. I know I've got loads left from last year because my husband went out and did a crazy kind of 3 for 2 at Sainsbury's after Christmas. So I've got loads and loads of that already. So I probably don't need to buy anything. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely one of those things that when you're going round the shops and picking things up and it's sitting there at the till, isn't it? Buy me, that you kind of think, oh, I probably need that, and just chuck it in your basket and away you go. And then you've got things that you don't need and money that you don't need to be spending. So I think it's important, to make sure that you pre-plan your shopping trips and work out exactly how many tags you need, etc.
Yeah, I agree with you. I ran down my Christmas card stock last year a lot. So I know I have to do quite a lot of Christmas card buying this year. And I also used a lot of my Christmas wrapping paper last year. So I'm low on that stock as well. So I already know I have to do a little bit of buying for that. But it's good to take stock of what you still have in your home before you go out. And if you'll have to wrap less presents this year, you don't maybe not have to buy so much wrapping paper in this year than you would have done in previous years. So be realistic in how much you use and how much you really are going to use and write, instead of just buying and buying and buying and having this massive amount of stock in your home.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, while we're talking about shopping, I think now's also the time to possibly think about what you might wear for these Christmas do's and things. Yeah. You've mentioned already there's like Black Friday sales and things like that. I think sales are very different to the way they used to be, aren't they? Because it used to be the Boxing Day sales here and there was no sales in December. But the way that retail is at the moment, I think those sales are kind of pretty prevalent throughout November and December as well. So I think it's important to kind of pick up on those. And if you do want to buy a new outfit or something for Christmas, now's the time to do that. But again, double check that you've not already got something in your wardrobe before you go out and do that. Because I think it's one of the, I quite like a nice new outfit for Christmas Day. And actually you look and think, well, there is something hanging in my wardrobe that I've never worn before. So that effectively does become a new outfit. So it's important to just double check. It's kind of what I call precision shopping.
Yeah, I know, because maybe you've bought a dress in the stores in the January sale from last year that you thought, oh, that might be nice for Christmas next year, and you haven't had a chance to wear it all over the year. So indeed, have a look around, a little rummage in your wardrobes to see what have I still left, so I don't have to go out and buy it.
Exactly. So, and sort of linked into that, I think it's really important to, before the shopping comes in, to make space in your home for what's coming as well. Mm-hmm. So if we talk particularly then about children, we know that there is going to be an influx of toys over the festive period. And so we need to make space for that. So I think November is a really important time to look at what your kids have got, see what they're playing with, see what kind of things they like, see whether there's any gaps, which is doubtful, to be fair, isn't it? There's probably no gaps at all. Mm-hmm. But equally, you need to look and think, there is going to be this influx. Even if you don't buy loads and loads of things yourself for your kids, other people tend to do that. And so I think it's really important to take stock and do a good declutter of children's playrooms or bedrooms, just to make space for what's coming.
Yeah, and also, and not only toys, probably also some books and arts and crafts. Have a bit of a sort out, because those are the things that people really like to give as presents over Christmas as well. And maybe do a bit of a sort out of Christmas pajamas and Christmas jumpers, because they're probably going to come in as well over Christmas. I know a lot of people like to get new Christmas pajamas. So have a bit of a sort out with that and make some space.
Yeah, definitely. Food is also going to come into the house, isn't it, over Christmas, I think. It's definitely a time for eating and drinking, isn't it? So I think it's really important to make space for that and to actually, again, to see what you've got and to make sure that, you know, and I always find it quite difficult because I tend to cater for kind of 16 people then on Christmas Day. You know, you need space in your fridge for things on the run up to that. And so you need to kind of, you know, to be fair, there's not much space for anything apart from Christmas dinner in my fridge the couple of days leading up to it. And the freezer exactly the same. So I think you need to go through your freezer and start to do that kind of eating out thing, go through the meals and start to use that. And again, it's going to save you some money. It's an important thing to do, really. Yeah. So fridges, freezers, cupboards, you know, look at, I think, what's going to come in. I need space for my Christmas biscuits. I need space for my Christmas nuts and things like that. And just make sure that everything's decluttered and ready for the festive period.
Yeah, especially in a fridge, you know, you've got always a shelf with sauces and things like that. When was the last time you actually checked those dates on those sauces?
I know, exactly.
Can you still serve that, or has it been open, or have you even forgotten that it's there? And that's also a great way to make some space. And indeed, doing a bit of meal planning and eating a couple of things from your freezer, that indeed will create space and you indeed will save some money. So yeah, I think excellent advice. I think the last thing we need to talk about is already having a look at your spare bedroom. If you know you're going to have guests over for Christmas and they're going to stay at your house, you need to look now in November at your spare bedroom and kind of decide, is there anything that needs to, you know, leave from here? Do we need to store it in another place? Can it be decluttered? Has something been parked there temporarily, but temporarily has been a bit longer than expected, but does it have to go somewhere else? Have a look at that spare bedroom, because you can't expect guests to kind of climb over things when they come and stay at your house.
Yeah, exactly. So a big full-scale declutter of the spare bedroom is what you're proposing, really, isn't it?
Yes, I do like a declutter. You know that.
I should hope so.
Well, listeners, I think that's it for this episode. We hope you've all enjoyed listening and are inspired to take action. We actually have an 8-week countdown to Christmas checklist on the Declutter Hub website under resources. So if you want to have a nice checklist and tick off some of your tasks, that's definitely the way to go. Thanks for taking the time to listen today. And if you'd like to get more tips and more advice, please follow us on social media. And if you don't want to miss the next episode of the Declutter Hub podcast, please subscribe to iTunes or to Stitcher. See you next time. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Declutter Hub podcast. Check out declutterhub.com for more inspiration and don't forget to tune in next week.